Hello, everyone. My name is Selena Foster, and I want to talk to you about Jane Addams today. This is my first time doing a video presentation, so please bear with me. I want to first share with you a quote by Jane Addams. It says, "Nothing could be worse than the fear that one had given up too soon and left one unexpended effort which might have saved the world." Now, Jane Addams held the title of many things over the course of her career: a woman's right activist, a philanthropist, an anti war activist, a social reformist, many, many titles, and we'll talk about that as we go through here. She was born on September 6, 1860, in Cedarville, Illinois. Her father was a politician and a successful mill owner. Her mother died while giving birth to her ninth child when Adams was only 2 years old. Now, after the death of her mother, she clung to her father, which ended up aiding her both emotionally and intellectually. Jane, Jane was considered a feminist, but her father did not support feminism, but he wanted his daughter to receive an education. So this is when he sent her to Rockford Seminary, which was an all-female school, which was later renamed Rockford College, where she was the first woman to receive her baccalaureate degree, which she helped to bring to the college. The Rockford Seminary didn't offer a baccalaureate degree prior to Adams fighting for it to get it there at the school. So, of course, she had to be the first female to obtain that. On September 18th, 1889, Jane Addams and Ellen Starr opened the Hull House that was located in devastatingly poor Chicago immigrant neighborhood. What gave them the idea of the Hull House is after college, Jane Addams, decided to tour Europe and other places because she was kind of unsure on where she was going to go after college. Because at this time, it was tough for women because their choices were limited during this time. So she decided to tour Europe, and she visited this place called Toynbee Hall in London. So she fell in love with the place and decided that she was going to come back to the United States and open up her own settlement, like the Toynbee settlement there in London. So that is how the Hull House came about. And the Hull House was actually a house that served immigrants and the underprivileged because Adams was known as an activist. She was known as a doer. Although she was born into privilege, she used that as a stepping stone. She used that to help others. She was a doer. She wanted to make change, and she felt like the only way that she could make change was by changing the way that society done things. Like, for example, she didn't think just giving charity would make a difference. She wanted to give them the means to make a difference, such as an education. So um, after the Hull House was opened in 1889, um, it just flourished. So many things came about after the opening of the Hull House. The Hull House quickly became an incubator for new social programs, the first theater, the first juvenile court system in the United States, the first playground, the first gymnasium, first public swimming pool, and public kitchen for feeding, the poor and the needy in the public, in the community. The Hull House was also responsible for numerous labor union organizations, a labor museum, tenement codes was put in place because of the Hull House. Factory laws were put into place, child labor laws, adult education courses. Adams really, truly felt like that was the key to changing society, and education was at the forefront of that. Um, Cultural exchange groups and collection of neighborhood data or neighborhood demographic data. So she worked and lived amongst very poor and very diverse people during this time, and it's really admirable, especially for a woman of this time, to have put herself in that position. She lived amongst. She didn't go back to her nice neighborhood and her nice home and in the comfort of all that, she lived and worked amongst the people that she was trying to help so that she could better understand and better help them and to better help them and make changes in society as a whole. Jane Addams had different personal and philosophical beliefs as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and some of the people who actually influenced that. So first off, I want to say that she was one of the first female public philosophers. So that's wonderful in itself. She also considered herself a pragmatist, also known as one of America's most famous social reformers, as we talked about just a moment ago. She rejected both marriage and religion. She never married, to my knowledge, throughout my reading. Never was married. She actually was raised in a religious family, but she did not practice that herself. Jane Addams believed the only way to change something or someone is to understand where they are coming from, which is why she lived in the Hull House. As I explained, that's the way she truly felt she was going to make a difference. Some people that actually influenced Jane Addams was John Ruskin. And John Ruskin was known as a romantic, and he theorized that art and culture reflected the moral health of society. His aesthetics was found throughout the Hull House. So he was someone that influenced Jane Addams. And another person that influenced Jane Addams was Leo Tolstoy. He valued solidarity with the common laborer, which Jane Addams openly admitted that she admired that quality about him. And he was known as a social visionary. And John Dewey was a really, he was a big part of Jane Addams' life. And he was known as a pragmatist as well. And it is said that, he said, he valued engagement through ongoing presence and listening. Dewey and Addams were referred to as intellectual soulmates. Dewey credits Addams with developing many of his important ideas, including his views on education, democracy, and ultimately philosophy itself. And of course, he's one of the most well-known philosophers in history. So I thought that was pretty notable in itself. So there's many, many, many things that Jane Addams has been known for during her time, and there's so much that I could talk about on here, but we're running out of time. And so anyhow, I wanted to just really quickly note some of the other things that she did aside from the Hull House, although the Hull House is one of her biggest contributions. It changed the way that we look at many things in education, in life in general. Just being a good person, helping one another out, and just an all-around good individual she seems to have been. Okay, so we noted that she was born in 1860, and in 1877, this is when she entered the Rockford Female Seminary. In 1881, she graduated from Rockford. 1888 is when she visited Toynbee Hall in London, which is how she got the idea of the Hull House. In 1889 is when they founded the Hull House. 1894, she helped Chicago Federation of Settlements. 1895, she becomes a garbage inspector for the 19th Ward near West Side. Another example of how she felt like doing those jobs, those common jobs, or common labor jobs, is really how you got to know the people. In 1903, she becomes vice president of the National Women's Trade Union League. 1905 through 1909, she serves as a member of Chicago's Board of Education. 1909, she helped to found the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Elected first woman president of National Conference of Charities and Corrections, later National Conference of Social Work. 1910, She was a mediator in Chicago garment worker strike, 1911 through 1914, first vice president of National American Woman Suffrage Association, first head of National Federation of Settlement and Neighborhood Centers, 1912, second Theodore Roosevelt's nomination for President of the U.S. at Progressive Party Convention in Chicago. In 1913, she speaks at the 7th Congress of International Alliance of Women for Suffrage and Equal Citizenship in Budapest, Hungary. In 1915, she helps organize Women's Peace Party, elected first chair, presides at International Congress of Women at the Netherlands. In 1919, she founds Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. 1920, she helped found the American Civil Liberties Union. 1928, she presides over Conference of Pan-Pacific Women's Association in Hawaii. 1931, she becomes the first American woman recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. And in 1935, she sadly dies in Chicago. And supposedly, I think they said it was cancer that she passed away from. So that concludes my presentation on Jane Addams. And although there's so much more information that I can include in this presentation, we will have to call it quits for now. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you enjoy reading the brochure. Thank you, and God bless.